Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the weekly Conservative Ladies of America live stream. It is Friday Eve. And can you believe that it is a week out from Thanksgiving? That is crazy. Especially crazy here in Florida, where it was like 85 today. So I definitely have not adapted to like in the Pacific Northwest, that Thanksgiving is coming, Christmas is coming because of the changing of the seasons. And so it just still feels like summer. It always feels like summer here in Southwest Florida. So welcome to the live stream. Let us know in the comments where you are listening from. Today's live stream is going to be pretty Washington specific. We're going to talk about a few things going on at a national level as well, but I really want to give you guys a legislative preview for the 2026 session in Olympia, specifically as it pertains to your Second Amendment rights or what's left of them in Washington. In just a few weeks, there will be pre-filing will begin for Washington State Legislature. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do this year because there is, pretty substantial budget crisis. And so, typically, at least over the last few years, I think what I've been watching through four legislative sessions now, and they've been spending money like it grows on trees. And now they're really facing this deficit where they're going to have to rein it in a little bit. And so it's going to be interesting to see kind of what they do here. I don't think it will slow things down, maybe a little bit, but I think they're going to work on passing policy that doesn't really have so much of a fiscal impact. And I think they're going to pass policies regarding taxes. And so we will get into that as it pertains to the Second Amendment policies that they're going to be working on in 2026, and the ones that we know of for sure moving into the next legislative session before even pre-filing starts. Because what happens with Washington, they operate on a biennium. So the bills that were filed last session, this 2025 legislative session that did not get passed, they automatically pop back up again in January. And so I call them zombie bills, where they're just going to come back alive come January, or they're taking a nap. But a lot of people will say, you'll hear in the legislature with especially Republicans, oh, we killed the bill. The bill is dead. If it is an odd year, you didn't kill the bill. The bill is still alive and it will be coming back in the next session. However, at the end of the odd year session, so for 2026, once the session is over, those bills will be dead. So anyway, welcome. Good to see you guys. I see Jordan, FBF. Yes. I know that is a common sentiment in Washington, and Bob Ferguson really is. I was really surprised when Bob was elected, and in January when he gave his inaugural address in Olympia, and a lot of Republicans were saying, "Oh, maybe he's going to be moderate." And it's like, were you not watching for the last almost 20 years in Washington State, where he had been involved in government in King County, and then he became the Attorney General for 12 years. He is very radical left, and he's better than Inslee, and better in a worse way, actually. He's very much a snake, and he's got, he's able to slick talk and tell people what they want to hear. And he did that in his, what did I call it? The inaugural, it slipped my mind, the inaugural address back in January. And people are like, oh, maybe he's going to be more moderate. Why would you think that? I mean, he was the author of the assault weapons ban. He also the high capacity magazine ban. And a lot of the bills that make Washington a sanctuary state, including a sanctuary state for children who want to try to change their gender. And he's huge on all of the abortion stuff, has really done a lot to protect and enhance abortion in Washington state. And so thinking that somehow this guy was going to change his tune and somehow be more moderate was unfortunately very naive thinking. And he is very radical. And I think we're going to continue to see him go down that radical path. So we'll get into the specific bills here in just a minute. I do want to talk to you guys about the AI stuff that's going on at a federal level. I did a quick video on it yesterday on our YouTube channel. It's about 4 minutes long. So the bill, the AI provision, and somebody commented about this. So back in, I think it was May when they passed the big, beautiful bill, or June. Anyway, whenever that was, they had tried to sneak in this provision to put a 10-year moratorium on AI policy at a state level, making all of the AI regulation go through the federal government. And this got a lot of backlash. It got a lot of opposition on both sides, and they pulled it out. I think it maybe even actually got voted, like it was an amendment and it got voted down like 99-1 in the Senate, if I recall correctly. Well, now they're on the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA. And this is like, it's not the same as a continuing resolution, but it's the same in the sense that they have to pass it to like keep going. It's a must pass bill. So now they're trying to sneak this AI thing, and they're not being sneaky about it. I shouldn't say sneak because it's very public, but they're trying to put it into the NDAA, which is like a 500-page bill, as they always are. And this, again, would put the 10-year moratorium on AI regulations at a state level. And so there's a lot of pushback coming from my governor, Ron DeSantis. He's been very outspoken about this, and that it would interfere with states' rights to pass their own regulations. And there's a leaked today, maybe it was yesterday actually, that it came out. There's a leaked draft for an executive order. So apparently President Trump is preparing to sign an executive order. If this provision in the NDAA doesn't pass, he's prepared to sign an executive order. Now, obviously he can't enforce just an executive order isn't enforceable like legislation is. So if it was passed in the NDAA, that's a law and that's enforceable, but through an executive order. So what he's trying to do with this executive order is set up something in the Department of Justice with the Attorney General, where they would litigate cases against states based on their AI policies that they are enacting. And the draft of this executive order says that there are, within the states, there are like 1,000 different policies that have been passed or that are proposed. And this executive order would give the Attorney General's office the ability to go out and sue states that have policies that are not in alignment with the White House's plan for AI. So that is actually, I felt like when I was reading through the draft of this executive order, and it hasn't been released. If you go to our Substack, which I will put up here on the screen, I just put out a Substack on this, and I've got the draft to the executive order linked in that Substack, and you can go read it for yourself. But the way that it came across to me was very combative, and like the White House is looking for a fight with states. And one of my biggest issues with tech policy is that I feel like we have a lot of lawmakers who really aren't very tech savvy. And so they're depending upon their staffers and their lobbyists and, this influence that's likely coming from big tech and to make policies. And they don't really understand the consequences of the policies that they're enacting, Plus, as we know, because of the sewer that is our government, a lot of these things are negotiated for, if you vote for this policy, we'll do this for you and your campaign and your family. So it's very concerning. And I was actually having a conversation with my husband today. We had to run out together for a midday errand. And I said, it'd be great if there was like, someone that really knew tech, that was, conservative, liberty, constitutional minded, that could go in and be an advisor to these policymakers. But of course, I think, while that would be great, I think there's so much corruption involved that it's just not that easy. So I'm really concerned about this AI thing. I think this is really, the tech stuff is really the next, is going to be a big policy issue as we move into the next year and coming years. And I feel like our lawmakers are like 2 decades behind. Like they're going to regulate MySpace. That's kind of like where they're at in their minds. And technology has advanced so far beyond where they are and what their understanding is, that it is kind of scary, from a citizen's perspective, I think. So I'd be curious what you guys think about that. We've been putting out a lot of information about some of the tech policies that have been coming out from Republicans. 2 of them to note are the App Store Accountability Act. This passed in Utah, Texas, and Louisiana this year. This is a gateway to digital ID. It's very, very bad. There's a federal level bill that is sponsored by a Republican representative from Florida, as well as Representative John James, who I believe is from Michigan. Both of them are Republicans. So this is a federal level bill, and there's a huge push by so-called conservatives, conservative think tanks, policy orgs, even parent groups. They've really infiltrated the mom organizations and parent advocacy groups. And their whole thing with the App Store Accountability Act is that this would require parents to give permission for their child to download an app. And this is their sales pitch. This is to empower parents and to protect children. Well, in order for anyone, if this law passes, in order for anyone to download an app from the App Store, you will have to provide age verification data in the form of government issued ID, perhaps biometric data. It's not just for children. Now, the other problem with this is that it doesn't do anything about the in-app dangers. So let's say that you allow your child to download Snapchat. There's an AI chat feature in there. There's predators in there. The real danger to children is what happens inside the apps. And so really what we would like to see with these policies is tools being provided to parents, and actually not through policy, but have these tools available for parents, have education available for parents, because let's face it, it's really difficult to parent in the digital age. And I don't know about you, but we had 2 very tech savvy boys in our family. My son actually works in big tech now, and he taught himself a lot of stuff at a very young age. And both of the boys could hack around the parental controls. So we need to be able to give parents education and give parents tools so that they can actually be in the driver's seat with this. And a policy like this that applies to every single American that downloads an app is really not a great idea. The other one that there's like 5, but I'll just hit on 2 right now. The other one that's really concerning for us is the GUARD Act. And I don't have it up in front of me right now, so I can't tell you what the acronym stands for, but this is a policy proposed by Senator Josh Hawley. He's a Republican from Missouri, and he's great on the pro-life stuff, and he's really conservative on a lot of issues. This is a very bad bill. It's really unconstitutional in a lot of ways, and it's surprising that he is pitching it. And so I don't know if like big tech is getting into these guys' pockets or their staffers' pockets. I don't know, but that's what it looks like. Anyway, the GUARD Act would ban AI chatbots for minor children. Now, if we've got the president over here saying we've got to get ahead of China, and we've got to let the federal government be in charge of whatever kind of AI regulations. And then we've got this bill that we're not even going to let kids use chatbots. That doesn't really work well. I mean, I understand the dangers. I'm very aware of and sympathetic to the dangers that we have going on with these AI chatbots. Part of that is a parenting issue. Part of that is on the tech companies and putting guidelines and making sure, like, I don't have a problem with like age verification in the app, and there are a bunch of different ways that they can do that without having to provide there could be a parent pass key or something like that, where you don't have to put in government issued ID or biometric data in order to get a to be able to use an AI chatbot, because they are going to need to use these for, various different things, whether they're researching or, doing something for school. They are helpful tools. They're not replacements for learning, but I think banning minor children from this altogether is a bad idea. The other piece of this that's similar to the App Store Accountability Act is that it will apply to every American. So if you want to use Claude, Grok, ChatGPT, you will have to provide your age verification data to be able to use these tools. And so that's not a win for anybody. It's a win for big tech. And it's a win for government, because the government is going to mandate all of this stuff. So parental empowerment does not come from a government mandate. And I'd love to put that on like a t-shirt or a poster or something. But if we're going to go out and say we do not co-parent with the government, then we can't be asking the government to mandate things for us to do to our kids. That is absolutely the opposite of parental empowerment. And that is 100% co-parenting with the government. So all of that you can find on our website, conservativeladiesofamerica.com. You can also find it on our Substack, which is conservativeladiesofamerica.substack.com. So go and check those out, dig into those. That's really important. Okay, let us move to Washington State and what is going on in 2026 with what's left of your firearm rights. So a lot of these, every single one of them was from 2025. And so I'm going to remind you what they're about, because a lot of you probably, the session's over and the fight, we kind of got to take a breath from the fight. And so what these are, and then my predictions for which ones of these they're going to put priority on, because like I mentioned at the beginning of this live stream, they need money. So they have to do things that are going to generate revenue for the state. So your firearms are a great way for them to do that. So the first one we're going to talk about is House Bill 1504. All of these bills that I'm talking about today, you can find at ledge.wa.gov. You can look those up. You can kind of look at what happened, what transpired with these different bills last year. And then you can track them. You can sign in and set up to track them if you would like to do that. So House Bill 1504 is the mandatory firearm insurance. They want you to prove that you are financially responsible enough to own a firearm. So what this bill does is it requires gun owners to maintain liability insurance for each firearm, or somehow prove financial responsibility. I don't know how you would do that. I don't know if that's like a credit score or what they would do there, but either way, it's a bad deal. Financial responsibility. Oh, here it is. Financial. I did not refresh myself on these really very much today before I did this. So financial responsibility means posting $25,000 in cash or securities per firearm. Insurers must have a separate ID card for each firearm. So I know some of you have many that you lost in your boating accident. But if you were to still have those, you would need to have a separate ID card for each of those. So this is definitely going to, if you think about like who needs the who needs the ability for self-protection the most? And I think about like myself when I was a single mom of four, I lived alone with my kids. It would have been nice to have a firearm. And I didn't have the means to, I probably could have, gotten a firearm and done all that. But now they've added, you've got to take the classes, you've got to buy the permit, you've got to do all these things. And then you have to do, a $25,000 cash or securities bond. And so they're going to take the marginalized community out of the ability to, own firearms and be able to use them. So this is the community that they claim to want to support the most. And these are always the people that are mostly impacted by their anti-gun legislation, but they don't actually care about that. They just want to do away with the gun bills altogether. So the people that, the wealthy people will be able to continue owning their guns, and it'll just be an inconvenience, or they will just move out of Washington. More U-Hauls leaving Washington. The other one, the next one we're going to talk about is House Bill 1386. Back up a second. On the insurance one, I just want a final note on the insurance one. Will this be a priority bill? I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of different things involved that might make it more challenging for the state to pass and enact this particular piece of legislation. And so I kind of don't think it's going to be the biggest push of all of these bills, but it could. But that's my prediction. I'm going to put this one low on the gun control priority. This next one, though, I think is this one's going to be a big deal. House Bill 1386 is an ammunition tax. They need money. So what better thing to do than put a tax on ammunition? The funds would be directed toward gun violence prevention programs and or general public safety spending. And it wouldn't surprise me if they expand on what these funds would be used for beyond public safety. I think because Washington needs money so badly, I think we could see this bill get amended to add in different uses for this particular tax. This will definitely raise the cost of ammunition depending on what the tax percentage ends up being. Obviously, once again, this is going to impact our marginalized and low income citizens the most. I mean, they're really just making it impossible. And this is the goal. They're really making it impossible for citizens to be able to exercise their Second Amendment rights, and very much intentional. And I know I can hear you guys. This is unconstitutional. This will never stand up in court. Take a look at what's going on in the courts. None of these laws have been ruled unconstitutional. They're all still in effect. If we go back to 2022, I think is when the high capacity mag ban was passed, Senate Bill 5078. And it's still, I know there's been a lot legal stuff around that one, but that one is still like, you still can't purchase those in Washington. There's obviously the assault weapons ban. There's a number of firearms, like common firearms, that you cannot get in Washington state. So I would really encourage you, while I totally agree with you that yes, these are unconstitutional and they should not stand up in court, but they do. And that's a big part of the problem, is that we have these activist judges, and, it's really a root level thing. And so I encourage you, like, if you really want to get involved in fixing the problem, whether you live in Washington or anywhere else, because here in, Southwest Florida, we have exactly the same problems that you do. And we really have, I mean, it feels really fragile to me. I feel like we're just one election away, or, one bad county council member or city council member away from becoming like something in, Washington or California. Get involved locally, because if we can start changing local, if we can start getting involved in local, where we are electing common sense, constitutional minded people to our city councils and our school boards, and our court system, then we can start changing some of these things. But we really have to get down to a root level. Citizens really need to start caring about what's going on in their own backyard and getting engaged in that. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. And so that's my pitch to you today. Get involved locally. Okay, this one. I think this one could pass simply because it doesn't really have a fiscal impact. So it's not going to cost the state a lot of money, and they can cripple your Second Amendment rights even more. So this is House Bill 1132, bulk firearm restrictions. Limits the number of firearms an individual can buy in a 30-day window. So you would only be able to buy one firearm a month. And you might think, well, that's not really that bad because I don't really need more than one firearm a month. But this is just more of the state giving you a permission slip, giving you regulations on how often you can practice your constitutional rights. And so just right there, it's completely unconstitutional. So it will have, I think it will have minimal impact. It's really going to impact people who are, really 2A, enthusiasts, I guess we will say, because obviously that's not everybody. Most people that are looking for Second Amendment, self-defense kinds of things, they don't really need to be buying multiple guns every month. So, I think of like for our conservative lady audience, one firearm that I can carry in my handbag I'm going to be set. So that's probably the majority of firearm owners, maybe. I don't know. Be interesting to know what the data is on that. So I think that could pass, but it's going to be I do think, and the gun bills in Washington state, they're always party line. That is the one place you can count on Republicans to consistently vote against these, not vote with the Democrats, is on this gun legislation. And the Second Amendment community always comes out loud on this stuff. So, and I do think it helps. I think it works because they don't want to spend political capital where it's not going to have a maximum benefit for them. So I see this one as potentially like it doesn't have, like they have more to lose than they have to gain, and it's going to have minimal impact anyway. So I don't know if that one will even get a committee hearing, but it's definitely one to watch. So again, that's House Bill 1132. The next one is Senate Bill 5099, new operational mandates for firearm dealers. I think it was 2024, 2023, or 2024. There was that big FFL, really trying to cripple the FFL. It passed in 2024. I don't remember off the top of my head if it's already taken I think parts of it has taken effect. It was really like the regulations that they were putting on the FFLs, the firearm dealers, was so over the top that it really made it impossible for a lot of firearm owners, or firearm dealers, the small ones, because they just didn't have the finances to implement all of these things that the state was saying they had to do in order to stay in business. So this kind of expands on that. And if my memory serves correctly, and maybe one of our leaders in the chat here can look for me, I think it was 5078, passed in 2024. Mary or Leslie or Joy, maybe one of you guys could look at that for me. But that, so 5099 is an expansion of the one that passed previously. It would have increased cost and compliance burdens, that again is going to make things more difficult for smaller gun shops. Dan Mitchell, Sporting Systems in Vancouver. I know that since the previous FFL bill passed, he has said, that it has significantly impacted his business and made it very difficult for him to do business in Washington. Again, that's the goal. All the bill does is makes it more difficult for law-abiding gun owners uh, to get lawful firearms. Of course, we know that this is going to do nothing to distract criminals, and it's going to do nothing to deter them from getting their hands on firearms, illegal firearms. So this is again just more to really to end the FFL, to kill the FFLs that are left in Washington State. Again, I don't know if they'll push that one this year, but this one they will push. Senate Bill 5098, the what do you call it? Not safe zones. What's the word I'm looking for? Sensitive zones. They're going to expand on the sensitive zones. And you guys might remember this one because it did move. It moved through the Senate. It passed the Senate and it went into the House and it died in the House. And I think a lot of people were really loud about Senate Bill 5098. And I definitely think that they will come back. Here's why I think they'll come back. I've been researching the legislative priorities for a lot of the advocacy groups and lobbyist groups that work in Olympia, and a lot of them have the no weapon zone expansion on their legislative priorities. So I'm actually going to show you what this is from the Washington State PTA. They're very active in Olympia, and they've always got different people to testify on different bills. They're all over the place. They're in all different committees. The education folks are very well organized. But here on their list, you can see preventing and reducing gun violence and suicide. So the way they're going to do this is they want to fund more school-based mental health centers. We really oppose school-based mental health centers, but that's for a different video. I'm really hoping that they won't be able to do this because of the budget crisis that Washington is facing. That would require probably a significant amount of funding to be able to expand to that. But they want to require permits to purchase firearms. Apparently, they weren't in Olympia last session and they missed that one. That was huge. So that's already been done. Incentivize safe storage of firearms and medications. So the incentivizing safe storage, I know. I thought did we not talk about that? I know there is a safe storage bill. You guys, did I talk about it? No. Okay. I didn't talk about it. We'll come back to this because I missed one of the bills. So they wanted to do the safe storage and restrict bulk weapons purchases. This is the whole, really, they've got pretty much all the bills on the list. So the bulk weapons, they want to do that. Safe storage, prohibit firearms in sensitive places, including parks and public buildings. And they want to fund community-based prevention and intervention programs. How are they going to do that? With an ammunition tax. So they've really got things covered here. Again, this is the Washington State PTSA, or maybe it's just PTA, Washington State PTA. A lot of the different education advocacy organizations and unions all have a similar legislative priorities. And I only talked about the ones here that are specific to the firearm stuff, but you can go to wastatepta.org and find their 2026 legislative priorities. They really push for this. And as you can see from what we just read, they've got everything is on the list. And so before we talk about the safe storage bill, I want to go back and finish talking about Senate Bill 5098, the safe spaces, sensitive places zones, because this bill did almost pass, and it would have, and I don't know why I'll have to go back. I don't remember why it didn't get pulled to the floor of the House for a vote. Maybe they just didn't want to spend the political capital on it. I do recall that the permit to purchase bill was really their priority bill for 2025. So maybe that's why they held it over. But so it would expand the gun-free zones to state and local public buildings, park facilities, sports fields, playgrounds, skate parks, and county fairs when they are open to the public. Now, one of the big things with the county fairs is that that's where a lot of the gun shows are. And so they would still be able to have the gun shows there, and firearms obviously would be permitted. It would be like if you were going to the Evergreen State Fair, the Puyallup Fair, or something like that, firearms would not be permitted. And so there will be signage at all public access points. The definition of firearms, and I know this was a big problem because for some of the manufacturers of like knives and things, but so it includes firearms, knives, explosives, and more. They did exempt CPL holders, as they did in 2024 when they passed another bill about safe spaces. And this 5098 expands on that bill that was passed in 2024. There's also exemptions for honor guards and ceremonial groups, museum-owned firearms in controlled settings. And as I mentioned, gun shows on fairgrounds are exempt. Now, I want to talk about the secure storage requirements because I did forget that one when I went through the first time. So, okay. So that is House Bill 1152, House Bill 1152, mandatory secure storage in homes and vehicles. This will require firearms to be stored in vehicles. They must be kept in locked containers or secured so that they are not visible. Requires I'm like blending words together. Requires firearms in homes to be kept in locked storage when not being carried or in immediate use. Like, then you wonder how are they then going to, how are they going to police that, right? Are they going to do random checks of your house? That's probably not far off. So the potential civil penalties and criminal liability for unauthorized access. Again, this is really just another way to inconvenience people from owning firearms, making it inconvenient, making it expensive, making them impossible to get your hands on. And I know that since the assault weapons ban in 2024 took effect, I think it was like July 2024. Maybe it was I think that was 2023. Sorry, I think that was 2023. It was like you went into the gun store like on July 1st after, and like the store was gutted of so many firearms. It's really sad. So that's what we're looking at so far. I'm going to put out a Substack that or actually I'll put it on our website, conservativeladiesofwa.com, and have just kind of a breakdown of each of these bills for you to reference. And then I'll also link it over to the ledge.wa.gov, which is the Washington legislature website where you can sign up to track these bills. You can read more about it. You can look at who testified and things like that. There's a lot of information available. Darren says, I'm not listening to any of this crap. I have to protect my family. I agree. And I hope that a lot more people will do that and will find ways to, if you're staying in Washington, find ways that you can exercise your Second Amendment rights without get around these laws. I mean, the Constitution is your permission slip. Leslie, on our leadership team, we lost 2 dealers in Republic, Washington, because of the legislation. And that's another great point for how it's going to, Republic is a rural area. And so this legislation hurts the small firearms dealers in these rural areas, making it very difficult for people to live out there who, have a variety of firearm needs that maybe those who are in more urban areas don't have, like hunting and things like that. And so that is the goal. That is the goal. Let's see. Jordan says the Democrats' end goal is disarmament of everyone and closing every mom and pop FFL. Yes, 100%. Totally agree with you. So this is what it looks like so far. I'd be curious if you guys, we can hang out here for a couple more minutes if you guys have any questions or if you want to opine on what you think is coming in 2026. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what the Washington legislature puts up, considering the budget crisis that they're in, and they're not going to be able to continue to spend as they have. And so I think from that aspect, it'll be really interesting. I did see the other day that Bob Ferguson put up a post on his social media about making sure that they're funding Planned Parenthood. So what happened with Planned Parenthood in 2024, Jay Inslee, maybe it was 23, Inslee like doubled the funding for Planned Parenthood in Washington, which they do more than just abortions. They are fully into the so-called gender affirming care. And then in the 2025 budget, Ferguson, or I don't know who, maybe it was the Democrats, but they dialed it back to the pre-2023 levels. So it went from like, I'm just throwing out numbers here. I don't think this is exact, but let's say it was 8,000. And then in 2023, they doubled it to 8 million. Then they doubled it to 16 million. And then they brought it back down to what it was before. And, you know, everybody, Planned Parenthood and all the baby killers, their hair was on fire and they couldn't believe it. This was just a tragedy. So I think that is going to be a priority, considering that they all can continue to post about it. One other thing, just on that note, this is probably for another day, and I don't think this will pass. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if they even put this in play. But there's the Senator Krishna Dawson. Hopefully I said it right. She's in the 26th legislative district. Is that right, Joy? It was there was a special election this year, and Michelle Caldier, who's a state representative, and she retains her seat. She lost that Senate race, but she retains her House seat. Krishna Dawson sponsored and all the Democrats, I believe, in the Senate co-sponsored it, a constitutional amendment for abortion and gender affirming care. It is extremely radical. There's like no age limits on it, no guardrails, nothing. It is extremely evil. Now, with a constitutional amendment in the state, it would have to pass the legislature with 2/3 vote. I don't know if they could. I would be shocked if a Republican voted for that. And if they did, they would need to be shamed endlessly and relentlessly until they were voted out and replaced. But that is something that they put on the table. So that just shows you where their priorities are. And, you know, like we saw with the assault weapons ban that Ferguson, as Attorney General, had been, I think it was from, I did a video on it, but I think it was from like 2014, 2015, that he had been pitching this to the legislature. He had been wanting it for that long. And it finally passed in 2023. So these people, when they have a policy that they want to get passed, they're really relentless. They just keep going until they get it across the line. And I think one of the things to be watching for and involved with in Washington State is they really only need, you know, a handful of legislative seats to get themselves to a supermajority and a 2/3, where they don't even need the Republicans to be able to do this. So it'd be interesting to see what 2026 election brings in Washington State and across the country. I think things are going to be interesting. So go check out our Substack for more information. You can also search our Substack for the pieces that we put out on all of these bills. I'll be sure to put it up on conservativeladiesofwa.com tomorrow. So if you want to go look at this, and then I'll post it on our social medias. But that's a good way to keep track of it. And so you can kind of have a picture, a visual of all these things, which unfortunately I didn't have time to get that out and be able to put it up on the screen for you today. So I will be back in 2 weeks because next week is Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. you have a fabulous weekend. And if you are watching on YouTube, or even if you're not watching on YouTube, please go subscribe to us on YouTube. We are at Conservative Ladies. You can also search Conservative Ladies of America. And you can find any of our team, just first name, Julie at conservativeladiesofamerica.com. If you have any questions, or if you have policy information or political, anything, a story idea or something that you want to put on our radar, please do send it, Julie at conservativeladiesofamerica.com. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Have a great weekend and a great Thanksgiving. And I'll see you in 2 weeks.